Hey everybody, this is Dan. I'm back for some more art camp crits tonight. Uh, Still sick. My voice is still kind of gross, so might be coughing a lot. You might hear that. So yeah, apologies. It's just kind of something I can't really help. I'm gonna start off real quick. I did a paint over 2 nights ago of this Igor character that Jeremy Gordon had done. And I got a comment on my YouTube channel about something that I just totally didn't even think of doing. I'm kind of out of it, but that's no excuse. Basically, this was a good suggestion. Just because there's so much gray, we talked about how much gray there is in the piece earlier. Just adding some kind of atmosphere to the background to backlight him. Just something to make that gray that is him pop off the background. I mean, you could colorize the background too. You could go in with a color layer and make it like a washed out sienna or something. Like, just anything to launch him forward is going to help, because a big, gray square is, it's bad. You might hear a lot of cheering in the background. I don't really know what's going on. I share a wall with a Middle Eastern restaurant, and they're kind of doing something. I'm not entirely sure what, but they're having some kind of party tonight. So, but yeah, I mean, you could wash in some color back here. You could, whatever. If you want to keep it gray, I don't hate the gray. I think it works okay as long as you add some backlight. But yeah, basically, you know, it helps push them forward a lot more. Adding that spotlight down here to kind of sell the light source works too. So yeah, just a quick suggestion. Thanks for pointing that out, person whose name I can't remember. I got so into fixing stuff with the character, I just didn't even look at the background, so apologies for that. But yeah, so that's going to do it for that. I just wanted to start with that. We're going to be critting this piece today. Let me go over to the art camp forums real quick, because I want to take a look at something here. Okay, so these black and white photos are by Eric Endoka, I believe is the name. Basically, the reason I chose this one, this piece right here, this piece right here, this piece right here, these three portraits feel very much like photo studies. I don't know, especially the kid, I think was a photo study, and I think this one as well. I don't know the photos you're referencing though, so the rule here for studies is if you want me to crit a study, I need to see the reference material, because I don't know what mistakes you're making based on what you were looking at unless I'm looking at the same thing. So, like, I can tell that this back eye is too small, or adversely, this front eye is too big, the nose is off, the lips are off, but I don't know how to accurately fix them per your reference unless I see your reference. So, yeah, basically, if you want to crit on these, I need to see the source material that you're looking at. This steampunk thing at the bottom, I'm not entirely sure. It looks like it might be using some photos of people and then painted other elements. If you do want to crit on these, just tell me on the forum what your process was and show me the references, and I'll be happy to help. There's no shame in showing references. It's just another way to, push things forward. But basically, yeah, this one up top felt like something I could definitely weigh in on in terms of design, in terms of how you're using your value, how you're showing volume, stuff like that. So we're going to crit this one. Apologies, you're gonna hear me coughing. It's just gonna happen. So yeah, I grabbed a reference of this cool old lion. Not a young lion; he's kind of an old, worn-out sort of lion, which I thought was good for this. So first thing I'm gonna do. This is a very square rectangle. This isn't really a portrait format sort of rectangle, so I'm gonna make it a bit more what you'd expect in terms of the aspect ratio for the canvas for something like this. I'm gonna probably crop out like that much Oh yeah, the other thing I gotta do, which I always forget to do, so it's good that I remembered this time. Up it to 2500 and up the resolution to 300 dpi before I start painting over, so I can get some actual details in here. But yeah, so really quickly, I'm going to, oh, hold on. Going to wash in the top of this, wash in the edges of this. Yeah, it sounds like there's a party going on next door, so you're probably going to hear some stuff. They've got it sounds like they've got a live band over there, and there's some people on a microphone, so yeah, don't worry about it if you hear tons of background noise. But yeah, so let's take a look here. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of select out your dude. Copy merged, paste, free transform. Drop him down a bit so he's not hugging the top of the canvas so much. Get him more like here, so there's a bit of breathing room. And his body is very rectangular right now, if you see what I mean. Like these edges are very straight, so the next thing I'm going to do, because he's wearing a cloak, I'm going to kind of fan this out over the shoulder to break up that silhouette. And then I'm going to kind of flute it out at the bottom. Maybe it's dragging on the floor, maybe it's catching in a breeze, or maybe it's just there because compositionally it pushes a triangle and it looks a bit stronger. So I'm going to bring this one down here and kind of make this implied swoop from these two sides that lead up. You know, if you follow the curve that I'm forcing here, let me grab a red real quick. If you follow this curve up, you know, it goes into the head, and if you follow this one up, it starts to turn around the arm, so this line also points to the head. So, you know, compositionally, there's better placement for that. Just makes it a bit more active. Straight lines are usually something that flattens an image. So adding some curved lines will give it a bit more life. This image is in grayscale. I don't know if I'm going to add color to it or not. I might. It depends on where we get after we talk about design and stuff. But yeah. Your grayscale stuff is extremely posturized. It's like the blacks are really black, the whites are really white. The contrast is like super blown out. And you know, you can make that a stylistic choice if you want to. You know, you can go Frank Miller or Sin City on it if that's your style. But it looks like you're going for something a bit more realistic, and maybe you just haven't done enough value practice, or maybe, you know, your monitor's not calibrated and a lot of stuff's getting pushed into white that isn't necessarily white. So one thing I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to copy this just to bring it into the piece. So one thing I'm going to do real quick next to this guy's face here. Okay. So look how little white is in this lion's face as opposed to the one you've drawn. And I understand that the lighting scheme is a little bit different. This lion's a bit more in shadow. But even the parts that are white, like the white fur over here, there's a lot more gray, there's a lot more texture, there's a lot more median value than what's going on. So, you know, if the idea is that you want to paint this in grayscale, look at some actual reference of the creature you're doing in grayscale and try to understand how, you know, this color sienna, this color orange in gray is actually this value. You know, try to understand the full range of like, oh, you know what, white is whenever you're painting in grayscale, keep in mind, white is probably the most special color. It's the rarest of the values. It's really on usually rim lights, accents, you know, like things that look white, like this spot under the eye. that's not white. You know what I mean? That's a fairly significant gray. You know, if I pull up my thing here, that's almost 50% down the grayscale. You know what I mean? Just fishing around here, that's, you know, this one right here is about 30%. You know what I mean? Over here in the rim light, that's not even fully white. You know what I mean? Even that's only about 10%. So really start to understand that white is the most specialized color when you're doing something like this. This wet nose here that mammals have that's catching light because there's water there, that goes to solid white. That's a specular. You know what I mean? Down here in this transparent hair, even that's not solid white, you know? Just picking the value, if you're looking at it right here, that's, you know, still not solid white. So really try to understand that everything, you know, a good color to start with, I usually start with 50% gray and I do a wash on everything. I do the drawing and then I wash the entire thing in 50% gray. Then I go in and I do the darkest shadows, map out the blacks, and then I build from there. And then at the very end I go in with white and I chisel out the stuff that I want to bring forward. So just think about that. It's just something to consider, you know, when you're doing this. I might leave that reference there just as a reminder for when I'm painting this, so you can kind of see what I'm doing as per the reference. But if you want to learn value and understand painting in black and white, there's no shame in value picking. I'm not saying value pick and then paint with the picked value. You're not going to learn anything from doing that. But as a reference to the values you've chosen, you know, look at the value that you put right here and then compare it to the value that's over here and see how accurate it was. You know, try to understand, you know, what grays actually do in desaturated photos and apply it to your piece. You can learn a lot from that. So I'm going to grab a, I think, multiply layer and then just select a median gray here, and I'm going to start just sort of building value in this face real quick, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually draw some stuff over it once that value's there. But other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to keep the lighting that you have, which is a 3/4 top down from this side, but I'm going to treat it more the way that it would look on like a real animal. So just because the light source is pointing at something doesn't mean it goes into full white. Almost never is that the case. White is very specialized. You know, if you look at a tube that's being lit, you know, very quickly I'll just draw this real fast. This is going to be very rough, so I apologize. If you look at a tube that's being lit, and you know, here's the cylinder at the bottom, the darkest value is usually in here, and then there's, like, you know, the very darkest in here. Then there's kind of a dim backlit edge over here of reflected light that's coming up that curved surface. Then, you know, it starts to get shadowy over here as it turns away from the light. But if this is lit the same way your lighting's being lit, and it's top down 3/4, you know, grab that white. This is where the white's going to be. It's going to be a band right in the middle of that thing that's catching right here, and it's going to radiate out from there, usually with a hard value against it of something reflected into the light. So so yeah, that's, you know, even though that's a tube and it's simple, every complicated shape on a painting you're doing can be simplified into, you know, an orb, a tube, a box, something like that. So just keep it in mind. White, in every case, is very specialized. There's not a lot of it. Highlights fall in specific places for specific reasons. So again, this arm, I just drew that tube. The same principle is in this arm. I've put this, you know, this highlight right here because this arm, an arm is basically the same form as a tube if you extend your arm and look at it. It's lit in a very similar way. So the highlight's going to fall where the highlight's going to fall, and everything else is going to curve into shadow. And because he has fur that sticks up, there's going to be quite a significant rim light on any edge that has fur. So again, I'm just building value right now. Let me zoom out here. Building value, then I'm going to go in and draw. Looks like you don't want them to have too significant of a mane. I might add a bit more of one, but I'll try not to go too crazy. I'll try to stick to the design you had in mind. Right now he kind of looks like a shaved lion, and that's sort of weird because the mane is such a big part of that creature. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with his body, if this is supposed to be like a skull down here or something that he's wearing. I'm going to come back to that later, I guess. And again, with this armband, just because it's metal doesn't mean the whole thing's reflective. So much cheering. I'm glad everybody's having such a good time out front. While I sit here sick, painting lions. So as usual, if anybody has any questions, concerns, things they'd like me to talk about in the chat, feel free to just post those and I'll get to them. Okay, so here's something. I'm going to grab a red to show you what I'm talking about. His arm on the right felt weird to me and I just figured out why. So this arm here, here's the elbow, and then, you know, this bicep's coming back here, curving away. So it's implied that the shoulder is, you know, here somewhere going into the neck, you know. This shoulder, I mean, unless this looks like a shoulder, this doesn't look like a bicep. It looks like this is the bicep right here, and then this is the shoulder up top. So this arm is significantly farther down than it should be. And as a result of trying to fit it into the canvas, it's getting kind of compressed and compressed vertically. So I'm going to raise that shoulder here to be on par with the other arm, which means that that form, you know, here is going to go up significantly, and then, you know, the bicep's going to come up, and then this is going to be where that elbow muscle folds in. So let's bring that up real quick. So again, 9 times out of 10, the root of all problems in a piece when you're asking for a paint over or something looks wrong is simply that the drawing is off, and it's, you know, you've jumped into painting or color too quick without, you know, doing a thumbnail or a sketch that works, where everything's been figured out. And, you know, that's a common thing. That's not something to be upset about. That's a problem that lots of people have. But yeah, you can fix all this stuff in the planning phase usually before you get too invested in your values and your colors and all that stuff. So it still needs a little more correction, but it's getting better. I'm going to change the folds here to kind of reflect that. I'm going to bring this cape up and around the back of his neck to show that it's really wrapping those forms. Let me get rid of my, well, I won't get rid of it. Let me, oops, raise my line here real quick. He's wearing this very gray cape. So this, in the same way that white is specialized, keep in mind looking at this piece over here, the black and white desaturated line. Black is also very, very specialized. They're almost, I mean, they're pretty much the same. They serve the same purpose, Black pushes things to the absolute recess, white pulls things to the absolute, forward. They're opposites, obviously, but when you're using them as tools in a painting, they serve very similar purposes. So yeah, you don't want. I mean, yeah, it depends on the painting, obviously. If the lighting is really dark in your piece and it's nighttime and blah blah blah, obviously there's going to be more stuff that gets close to black. But with something like this that's very very lit, you know what I mean? Like this is significantly bright. Sinking everything into black really just makes it look like there's a calibration problem, or just the values aren't working. So this isn't a case where you can argue that, oh, but for the illustration purposes it needs to be black, because the lighting is obviously very direct and very clear. So much celebration going on. So I'm just catching some light on the wrinkles here. It looks like maybe this cloak was intended to have a mantle and then a sheet kind of cloak that hangs from it. So I'm going to play with that a bit more. I'm not entirely sure if that's what you were going for, but it sort of looks like it. The other thing that's making this sort of weird, I think, is that yes, lions have big heads, but for the purposes of this very humanized, upright lion guy, his head might be a little too big. So I'm going to grab that real quick. It's also very forward. If you think about where his neck would be, the head, was very, very forward. I think the angle for that kind of hand over chest thing, I think his head needs to be tilted up a tiny bit, like he's looking forward at something, sort of saluting it. So yeah, I think so. The reason I did that before I click the layer back on, just to explain, I'll grab another red because I'm fond of using red for corrections. We've established that this is shoulder number 1 right here. This is shoulder number 2 over here. This is obviously, you've drawn his abs, his hips are here. So if his shoulders are here, we can assume, because he's a lion, the human anatomy doesn't need to be exact. He can be kind of squat, he can be shorter, more meaty and muscly. The neck is going to come up here, and, lions don't have human necks. They have like this haunch that turns into the head. So, it feels like because of where this arm is and because he's standing upright, and because keep in mind that this would be his spine basically back here, this line right here. His spine is what turns into that haunch. This is a continuous line, so it feels like the haunch would be more like there, and then the head would be, if this was the diaphragm, this is where the pecs are going to be, based on where you've drawn the abs down here. These curl in and become the neck, so it feels like the head should be sitting back more. Feels like that's where it would be, right there. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to shrink the head and move it back. Get more of that haunch that's going into his back here. Erase this in the front and this. Allow more of the underside here to show. Bring the cloak in. So yeah, this feels a bit more natural for the pose that has been established. I'll show some of the neck here, so it wouldn't be in total darkness. Might actually be catching a little bit of light on the side. Same thing over here. I'm going to curve this out a bit more to match the other ear and give it some form. Also, this arm here is much smaller than his arm that's hanging down, so I'm gonna fix that real quick too. I'm gonna fix it by bringing the elbow part of this out. Which is gonna let me pull this cloak back a bit. And the swoop here. Just make it look like this arm's got a bit more real estate. So just because I'm curious, I'm gonna this cast shadow from that arm is a little too intense. Makes it look like it's 2 feet in front of his body. So again, black is something you don't want to use too much of in a lighting scenario like this. So I'm gonna light up his body a bit more, not a ton. It can still be in shadow, but you know, you don't want to make it look like that arm is like way in front of it. You want to give it a bit more, you know, his arm's literally pressed against his body. It's right there. You know what I mean? So it's not going to have a cast shadow where it looks like it's way in front of it and there's like this gap. He's literally hand on his chest. So that cast shadow is not going to be too extreme. It's sharing the same basic space. Trying to see here. Still not sure what's going on below the waist, really. I guess I'm just going to make something up because there really wasn't any information there. So I'm going to take the general costume you've given him and I'm just going to make something up for it. I'm going to give him a belt with some rings around it that match the ring on his arm. And then from that, I'm just going to apply some hanging cloth, like a loincloth maybe. Hopefully this isn't an established character, like some weird Ajani offshoot from Magic the Gathering or something. I didn't instantly recognize it. At first I thought maybe it was like Beast from like Beauty and the Beast. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. But then I was looking at it more and I said, maybe it's just their own like lion dude. But if it is a character that has a specific costume and I'm doing it wrong and I just didn't recognize it, that has happened before, so I apologize. I get the feeling that he's supposed to be Greek. He kind of has like a Spartan outfit. And like maybe what I thought was a skull, because it's so lit, maybe he's wearing like a thong kind of thing. Like in 300, and like maybe this is supposed to be his thigh popping out. It's so bright that I wasn't really sure. But yeah. I mean, obviously he feels like a soldier because he's doing that, you know, chest salute thing. So, whatever he is. I'm going to stick with the Greek thing, but I'm not going to give him a thong. I couldn't tell if that was a thong or not. I think it might be. I'm just going to give him a belt with hanging belts, which is like, you know, they would have the waist belt, and then it would have these hanging bits here. I'm going to give him one of those. Oh man, that most recent season of Hell on Wheels made no sense. I really did like that show for a while, but the most recent season is just like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand where the end of it. I'm just like, what? Sorry if this spoils anything for anybody. I'll try not to say anything specific. I just did not understand what the hell they were trying to do. Like, that show, like, this doesn't spoil anything, but that show started off with such a good premise. Like, his wife died, and there was some creepy reason she got murdered, and these dudes, you know, it establishes that this is going to be like a manhunt for these dudes that are responsible, and it makes sense, and it's Western, and you get it, and then they abandon that plot line within 6 episodes. He's not looking for the dude who killed his wife anymore. He's in love with somebody else. Whatever, fuck it. And then it just never comes back to the reason you started watching it. It just totally abandons it. And I'm like, okay, what? Seems like AMC has that problem with every show but Breaking Bad because Vince Gilligan wouldn't let them do anything with it. Like, even Mad Men, it's like you start watching the first season for a very specific reason, and you find out stuff about the character, and you're like, whoa, this is great. And then it just abandons it, and for like 3 whole seasons, they don't even talk about it. And you're like, oh, okay. What? Why am I watching this? Sorry, looking for something. Looking at some Spartans. Apologies. Give me just a second. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, so again, you watch Mad Men because it seems like a cool historical thing about the 60s, and then, you know, he's a complicated guy with family problems, and then all of a sudden, partway through the season, the hook hits you. The reason you're going to keep watching the show hits you. You figure it out. You figure out this main character's secret, and you go, okay, I'm in. I am hooked now. This is awesome. Like, I was not expecting that. This has depth. This is high stakes. And, like, there you go. It's awesome. And then they just abandon it. It's just gone. It's just, I'm gone. You're like, okay, what? Why? And they keep making you think they're going to bring it back, but they never do. Sumal says, for an art question, what are some tips to make backgrounds without actually making a background? It's hard to make a character and know how to set it into a piece properly so it looks finished. We actually covered that last night with one particular piece. We kind of covered it a minute ago, too. I mean, so the question is backgrounds without making a background? I mean, I think you're just talking about, like, setting a character in space, really. Yeah, the lemur crit was making an actual background where there isn't a background. That was like, you know, I guess that's not really the same question you're asking, though, because you're asking a background that isn't a background. So I guess it's more just how to make the character feel like it's sitting in a space in the painting, so it's not just a flat character. So this is my go-to for that, this piece right here. This is what I always do for stuff that I feel that way about. So this is by Sang Han, who is one of my favorites. Basically, the character has a dark edge around him because the forms are curling away from the light. So he puts a backlight here that's just an atmospheric top-down light around him that pops him. And then, because the light source is top-down, he puts, you know, the spotlighting effect on the bottom to show that regardless of where this guy is, it doesn't matter what the mock-up environment is, blah, 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 blah. That light is still affecting the ground. He's sitting in a space where the light is affecting everything, not just him. It puts him in a place that makes sense in terms of the rules of light, so it's less of a flat character on a page. But I guess that answers the question. But yeah, I don't know. You just got to build the values around the character to make it look like the lighting makes sense on the canvas, and then it won't. That will take away that flatness you're talking about. Basically, if you want to look at what I think this dude is inspired by, just look at that Magic the Gathering Ajani lion dude. I'm pretty sure, like, does he have muscle? He's bare chested, right? I'm pretty sure he's bare chested. Let's go take a look. I can't tell if he's bare-chested. I think he is. Yeah. But anyway. He's got belts and stuff and doodads and all that good shit, but yeah. He's a lion. He's a lion, man. He's a lion, man. I'm gonna come back to the body because I'm still not totally satisfied with it, but first I'm going to work on this head a bit. Get in here. So remember I said that blacks and whites are very, very specialized in a canvas. So anywhere where I feel like there's too much black or too much white, I'm going to go in and try to refine some of that. So again, I'm not tracing the lion, I'm not copying the lion. I'm just using pieces of an actual lion in a similar pose to reinforce, you know, this design of a lion. Things like, how does a lion's nose work? How does that feline nose actually look? Because regardless of how you stylize this character, certain things are going to have to remain the same for it to be a feline. And like that nose is one of them. How it curves and kind of bevels around, like you need to hit that. You need to make sure that that's there. You know, just that little bit with the eyes and the nose. It just makes it more feline, like instantly. Oh yeah, Pete Moorbacher's lion, dude. Yeah, that's another Magic lion. Magic the Gathering has these like lion people that just have like ripped human torsos and then lion legs and heads. But yeah. It's a good reference if anybody in here is trying to get into painting some lion people. If that's your thing that you want to do. Yeah, the ears are mismatched. I kind of mentioned that earlier. I'm going to get into it when I get up to the top of the head. This ear is way lower than the other ear. Just trying to get the... Right now, the big problem that I'm trying to fix before I move away from the bottom jaw is that in the original, there's not really any planes in this face. You've got the bridge of the nose and then the eyes, and that's really it. You can't see how any of the forms down here are working. It's just kind of like a mess of fur. So I'm trying to sculpt some planes in the face and give it some edges and some forms. Less of just that messy hair texture and more of like, okay, this is, you know, where the maw of the mouth curves back. This is where this, you know, comes out. I want to figure all that out before I move away from here because that's all really important to make it sit. So this is going to be the probably the longest, most tedious part of this particular paint over is identifying the general area where all the planes are going to be and just rendering them out. So bear with me while I do this. It's going to make all the difference though. This is like, you know, the biggest part of this. Like finding this edge right here and how it comes up to the eye. Hitting the rim light there that needs to be there. Then letting it curve away. That's what makes sense out of a face. When it's, especially when it's in 3/4, you need to see how those forms turn. It sounds like you just want to watch Gladiator JL, which I understand. So, why don't I humor you and put on some music? on my signal. Unleash hell. Hey, I'm back. Hope you enjoyed listening to some Gladiator music. Might listen to more. So, like, having a dilemma here. This lion has no mane, and, like, I get it, but at the same time, like, I kind of want him to have a mane. So I'm gonna kind of keep going back and forth with myself on that, I think, till I come to a conclusion. It's weird. It's like a lion without a mane is like a Viking without a beard. It just doesn't feel right. I'm going to finish playing with the face and getting everything where it needs to be in the face before I figure out what to do with the mane. If I do anything with the mane. Well, yeah, a lion without a mane is a girl lion, but this is very clearly a dude. You know what I mean? Like the pose, the clothing, the stature, the expression, the face. Like, this is a dude lion. But yeah, we'll figure it out. After I get the face settled, I'll figure out what to do with that. If anything. So I kept the, he had like a big sort of lion beard in the original concept that I'll click over to here so you can see. But I kept that, this like triangle down here. Yeah, that's not 100% accurate to a lion, but this is a character design. It's not, you know, National Geographic special. So the little things that the artist put in there to give it some personality, I'm gonna keep or try to enhance. So yeah, I like him having a longer tuft of hair down here. I think that works good. I'm gonna add some more hairs to it so it feels like it's actually growing out of his chin and not just a huge piece of bone. You know, you want it to be hair. You don't want it to be like a malformed skull. You don't want to give him like a Jay Leno chin on a lion. I want to make it very clear that it's a beard that's causing this length. Jay, I want you to take all your ideas for the story of this character and post them on the forum as a fanfic. I think the artist will greatly appreciate it. I think what I've decided is he's either going to have a mohawk or he's going to have a mane that's slicked back. I'm not sure though. Because I'm thinking like, okay, so he's obviously inspired by like a Greek warrior dude. Greek warrior helmets, you know, from the side they have this sort of shape. And then they have the mohawk crest that comes down the back. So I'm either going to have the actual full mohawk or I'm going to cut off the front of the mohawk and just have it ride down the back like that, like it's slicked back hair. I think it's going to be one or the other. But yeah. Get the back of this neck here. Get some bristle. wish I could show you guys the stuff I've been working on for my tabletop client. I'm basically, I can't really, because of my NDA, discuss the details, but I'm basically building like a 20-piece army where I get to do all the units this time. I usually do a couple units, but this time I'm doing the entire army, so it's going to be kind of cool to have a whole like thing that I completely did from the ground up. But wish I could show it, but I can't because of NDAs. NDA jam. NDA hang time. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you liked the Pug Night. I've got a bunch of sketches I should put on Facebook. I just haven't taken the time to do it. Got about 50 so far that I just haven't put up anywhere. Sorry, just getting the form of this nose down. Trying to concentrate on that. Get the shadows where they need to be. Okay. Get some expression back in the face with some little furrows. For any freelancers that need some new content to watch, I started watching Fargo. I had no idea what it was. I never saw the movie Fargo, but man, it's pretty good. It's got like everybody in it. Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton and all kinds of people. It's pretty good if you need something to watch. Okay, let's start playing with what his hair could possibly do. Leonidas and the Brave 300. Alright, let's play with this. So one idea, no, I don't know, if it's smaller maybe. It's one of my favorite movies. Daniel G. It's one of my favorite movies. Sinbad, all of the old Sinbad movies that Ray Harryhausen worked on. I used to watch those all the time when I was a kid. Hmm. I mean, I know he doesn't have a main in the original, but I'm just compelled. I'm just compelled to give him a main. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to keep it on a layer. That's going to be the secret. I'll do two. One with and one without. That's the fair way. And then I'll get back into fixing the body because there's still some anatomy issues. Let me quickly, very quickly, rough in this mane though. I have so much work to do tonight, which is a good and bad feeling. So much stuff to do. Let's do a sound off in the chat. What's everybody working on, if they can say, and if you can't say, just make up a vague way to describe it, like, you know, fantasy character or something. A non-NDA breaking way. What's everybody working on tonight? Because you should all be working on something. I'm going to give him the Escape from New York mullet with the eye patch. It's going to say, "Call me Pliskin." It's going to be this guy with a giant eye patch. No one in here gets the reference, but that's okay. I'm an old man. I understand. I need that song to render this mullet. I'm so sorry. My throat really hurts, so I'm gonna do this. This will make it all better. Well, that was fun. I'm back. Hey, what's up? You get rid of my Metal Gear layer. As fun as it was. Sorry. It's still there. I mean, you know. Could draw Psycho Mantis in the background, floating around, saying something stupid like, "You like fantasy art, don't you? You're a fan of Castlevania." Oh, Metal Gear. I mean, I like the main, but I'm going to keep it on a layer just in case the person who painted this absolutely hates it. I'm going to push these curves a bit because his body, I'm actually going to recrop it too now that we've started rendering it, because his body feels very meek. Doesn't feel super impressive. So I'm gonna, let's see here, I'm gonna zoom way out. Let's try that. Now there's a party going on and a car alarm going off. So many noises. Let me shut that layer off real quick. Grab this body. Give me a minute, I'm just playing around. This arm is the arms are what's causing the problem. They're just awkward. I'm gonna try and fix that real quick. Oops. I don't know what I just did. So if anyone has anything in the chat they'd like to discuss, probably going to be on here for about another half hour, maybe a little bit more. But feel free to post anything in the chat you'd like to talk about. Questions, topics, really whatever. Gonna make the muscle in the arm considerably heftier. And if there are no questions, that's okay too. I'll just zone out and paint this muscle line, man. What am I doing after art camp? Would I come on for another? If no one wants me back to do crits, portfolio reviews, stuff like that, or to instruct other stuff, I'd be happy to. This has been a fun experience, and I was a friend, and you guys have been doing really good work, and yeah, I love doing this. I'd be happy to. After art camp, I'm going to be doing much the same as I'm doing now and what I was doing before art camp, which is as much personal work as I can get away with in between client work, which is kind of the ideal situation for anybody in our position. Just doing as much stuff I want to do as I can while completing all the stuff that I have to do in the meantime. This is my first time doing art camp, so it took me a little while to get used to the format. I wasn't entirely sure what I was doing right away. But yeah, I think it worked out well. It's been a lot of fun for me. Hopefully, the paintovers and the talks have been helping people, and they've gotten a good amount out of it. Yeah, I'd be happy to do another. And I'd love to, at the end of it, just for my own sake, I think I'm going to put up a, questionnaire thing at the end of my my run for art camp on just general feedback on, you know, what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, what would you like to see done differently, blah 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 blah, just as like an instructor feedback thing, because you know it's all for you guys, and I want to just make sure that what I'm doing is relevant and giving people the kind of stuff they were hoping to get out of it. That's very important to me. So. What exactly is Art Camp? Art Camp is a it's a teaching platform that Noah Bradley created, where basically he runs through the basics of how to get started with fundamentals, what you have to do, what you have to work on, assignments in different media, all the basics for people that want to get started in art but might not know how. But the twist on Art Camp that I kind of like is that he goes and he finds different people that are either working in the field or that are professionals, and he brings them on as guest instructors to teach the stuff that they're good at teaching. So it's not just like here's this one guy teaching everybody. It's like here's a group of 5 people that all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they're going to teach the whole group together. So we've got a bunch of people doing this one. We've got Randy Gallegos, we've got Sean Murray, Tristan Elwell, Noah, myself, and we're all teaching totally different stuff. So that's kind of what I like about it versus other things where it's just here's one person who's going to tell you what to do and do exactly what they say. It's kind of like you can kind of find a more individual path in it, which is something I've liked seeing people do going forward. Is some people respond really well to some instructors and not so well to the other ones, so they can kind of, you know, there's more of an opportunity to find a niche that's going to help your education, which I think is cool. Because me and Sean are really good friends. We do completely different work. We have completely different stuff to offer the students, but it's still valid. You know, both approaches are valid, so it's yeah, it's good. We all learned how to do what we do a different way too. So how we teach, how we talk about it, our personal experiences, those are all very different. So yeah, yeah, that's what it is. Broad strokes. What proportion of character slash environment slash miscellaneous pieces would you recommend for a portfolio? Uh, there is no recommendation for that. It depends on who you are as an artist and what kind of job you want to get. You know what I mean? There's people in the industry like, you know, Wes Burt, who are pretty much known for their characters. They do really good illustration. You know, Wes does really good illustrations too for like magic and stuff, but he's very much, you know, he's a character guy. He's an anatomy guy. He's a design guy. There's some people out there like Noah who doesn't really do that many characters. He does mostly environments, you know. So his portfolio has probably 90% environments with a focus on a couple other minor things. But yeah, I mean, it's totally up to you. I mean, there's nothing worse than a bland portfolio. And there's all different kinds of ways to get a bland portfolio. One way is to copy too many people and to have a portfolio full of stuff everybody's seen before. Another way that no one really thinks about is to just hit all the check marks of what they think should be in a portfolio. Like, I'm going to do 5, you know, I hate doing environments, but I'm going to do 5 environments because that belongs in a portfolio. I never do vehicles, but concept art is all about vehicles, so I'm going to do vehicle design, 5 of those. 5 characters, 5 illustrations, 5 weapon designs. I'm going to do UI just because there's artists out there that get paid to do UI, so I should have my bases covered. It's like when you do a little bit of everything, you get good at none of it. You're just kind of a mediocre jack of all trades, and those are the jobs you're going to get if you're a mediocre jack of all trades. People are going to hire you to just do whatever busy job they have lying around because you haven't set yourself up as I'm the guy you hire to do this. I'm a specialty shop. Like, that's what you want to be. You want to be the specialty shop. You want to be the go-to guy for the thing you love to do. That's the dream. Don't focus on your strengths. Focus on your interests. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't avoid your flaws and don't, you know, study around your weaknesses. Like, if you're really bad at color, You still need to study color. If you're really bad at values, you still need to study values. Like, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying if you love character design, and no matter what you do, you just can't get into painting like tanks and jets, chances are you're not supposed to be a guy that paints tanks and jets. You're supposed to be a character guy. You know what I mean? Like, don't focus on your strengths necessarily. Focus on what makes you excited to paint. What if you don't know what you want to do yet? There's a very simple test for what you want to do. It's an extremely simple test. I'll tell you what it is. Follow these steps exactly and don't deviate from this path at all, and you'll figure out what kind of artist you're supposed to be in the industry. Step 1, unplug your computer. Step 2, shut off every single thing in your house that's connected to the internet. Step 3, put all of the art books you own in a box and seal the box shut with tape and put it in a closet and lock the door. Step 4, go to a coffee shop or local place that is quiet with a sketchbook. And step 5, spend an entire week, not 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, sketching in your sketchbook off the top of your head whatever you want to do, whatever is fun to do, without looking at the internet, without looking at art forums, without looking at what other artists are doing, and without looking at what's popular. Take all of that shit out of your life and just draw for fun. And whatever is fun for you that makes you excited to do it in your free time, whatever is exciting and interesting and makes you smile and have a great day, turn that into your job. That is the advice on how to find out what artist you're supposed to be. Get rid of all this shit of everybody's doing Applebot. I should do Applebot. This guy did some really cool jets. I'm going to do jets to get a job doing jets. Get rid of all of that shit and just draw for yourself. For fun. Remember what it was like when you were a kid. Just drawing for fun. And then turn that into a job. No matter what it is, it can be turned into a job. Guaranteed. So just do that. So yeah, I mean, really, get rid of the internet. Like, that's, I'm not gonna budge on that step. If you actually want to know like what to do for your career, get rid of the internet for a week and do nothing but draw in a sketchbook for yourself. Don't look at any other artists. Don't do it, because our brains are sponges, and you need to get rid of all of that shit that you see every single day that's influencing what you think the industry is, what you think is popular, what you think is selling. Like, this is the most inbred industry. Like, the amount of recycled ideas that my friend did it, and then I did my version, then my friend did my version of his version. Like, the amount of trickle-down ideas that have just been done and done and done and done is so insane that to find out what you're supposed to do creatively for yourself, you have to get rid of every connection to the community for a duration of time. You just have to. And if you unplug everything and you find out that you're drawing Dungeons and Dragons characters for yourself in your sketchbook and that you really just love RPGs, then great. You can get a job doing that. If you find out that you're drawing characters from the animated Disney movies you loved and you're doing kids book stuff or whatever, then great. You can get a job doing that. If you really love the idea of making a flip book in your free time and you're playing with poses, maybe you're supposed to be an animator, you know what I mean? If you just draw tons of swords and weapons and you go to museums and look at armor and that's just what you love to do, guess what? You're supposed to design that sort of stuff. So that's really the only way to figure it out. Because if you're not having fun doing it, then, like, what the fuck's the point? You know what I mean? Like, ooh, I'm gonna open up this bodybuilder. Look at that. Yeah. There it is. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. I know it sounds impossible, but trust me, I did it, and it's the shit. I rented out a place up in the mountains for 10 days, and I didn't bring anything that had a Didn't bring anything that had an internet connection, and there was no phone or anything up there, no computer, no TV. Just brought a sketchbook. And the first couple days, the stuff I was doing was derivative of stuff I'd seen. It was still very much, you know, I got to do this, I got to do that. But then I started walking around and going places and just, you know, clearing my head. And by like day 4 or 5, I was just like, oh, why don't I ever do this anymore? And like, you start realizing what's actually fun for you, and for whatever reason you stopped. And then you were like, oh, okay, well, why am I doing what I'm doing when I could be doing this? Like, this is the answer. And that's how you figure it out. And the other important thing to remember, like the other really important thing to remember, is that other people don't have to like the thing that you like to do. You know what I mean? Like, if you go and you take a vacation and you do nothing but draw and you unplug from the internet and you figure out that you love to draw something that everyone on the internet in this community says that you shouldn't do, or that doesn't make money, or how are you going to turn that into a career, or blah, 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 like, none of that shit matters. You can make a living doing anything creatively with art. There's an audience for everyone. If you figure out that you actually just love anime and that you've been in denial because everybody shits on it, just embrace it. Whatever. You know what I mean? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, and this is going to sound probably pretentious, but I actually believe it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 70 to 75% of all of the people in this industry right now that are trying to make a living don't even know who they are, honestly, artistically. 90, you know, probably even higher, probably like 80, 90% of them are a combination of stuff they've seen on CG Hub that was popular, stuff they think is going to make them money, styles that are other companies' styles because they want to work for X, Y, and Z. You know, it's just they're trying to be something that's going to get them a paycheck, and their style changes with the times. You know, if suddenly post-apocalyptic stuff comes back, they're going to be doing it. If suddenly someone finds a new way to render with a filter, all of them are going to do it. It's just those bandwagon people that hop from every single thing to every single new thing. And it's like, there's no personality in that. There are artists out there that have that kind of personality, and those are the people that get copied. Like, you know, Cake Guy's work is Cake Guy's work, and you can tell that it's 100% him. You know what I mean? Like, that's his interest, that's what he loves to do, that's how he likes to paint, that's him. And tons of people copy him as a result. You know, there's Brad's, there's Darkins, there's Dave's. You know, it's like, there's Koro, there's Wes. All those people that just do the thing they like to do and don't waste time doing other shit, those are the people that get copied by people that don't know what they want to do because they never took the time to figure it out. Yeah, it's crazy, though, how many people recycle stuff in this community just because they saw other people do it. It's like when Hannes used to do studies of kitchens, if anyone remembers that, and then like 50 artists that did nothing like Hannes's work just because they're fans of Hannes and they thought Hannes was making a living doing that, started studying kitchens to get better at lassoing edges and stuff. And like, it's not relevant to their work at all. It didn't help their portfolios at all. They just saw somebody they liked doing it, so they went, oh, I'm gonna do it because he did it. And like, do your thing. If you find out that the thing that you love to do, that's your thing, is already being done by somebody else, that's a coincidence. Fine, whatever. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just do it. But it might be something totally different. You know what I mean? And that's completely fine. So there's no 100% worthless crap that would end up in that sketchbook. Well, it's a sketchbook. Like, here's another thing that really pisses me off. Okay, so that comment comes from a place that everything in your sketchbook should be good. That's what that comment comes from, is like, you want everything to be good. And that idea didn't exist before James Jean put his sketchbooks out and published them. I love James Jean. I love his work. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. Definitely my favorite illustrator. Okay, but Sam Weber, another guy I love who was James Jean's roommate, made a joke once at a thing that I was at that James Jean ruined the sketchbook for everybody. And I kind of agree, because you see his sketchbooks that he publishes and all the work is good and you're not seeing anything he fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, you're seeing this perfect, pristine, every page is a masterpiece thing. And that's not what a sketchbook should be. A sketchbook should just be a dump for whatever's in your head. Some things are going to work and some things aren't. That's the whole idea, you know? Not every drawing you do is going to be a 10 out of 10. Some of them are going to be 3s, and that's totally fine. But that's the thing, is like, if you go through 20 pages of trash and then your 21st page is something you really love, those 20 pages before it, that was the cost of getting there. You had to get through all those bad ideas to find that good idea. And that's totally fine. Everybody has bad ideas. They don't usually show them, though. If somebody really, really hates something they did and they think it's the worst thing they've ever done, they're not going to put it on their sketchbook thread in a forum. They're just going to pretend they never did it. And what that does is it contributes to this illusion online that if every piece in a person's gallery is good, then everything they do is good. That's not the case. Those are just the pieces they chose to put in because they were better than the other ones. It's really easy to think that these people are just perfect all the time, and they're not. So don't get in your own head about your work. Everyone does bad stuff. Like, I've done work I'm never going to show anyone. I've got entire sketchbooks of stuff that I'm never going to show anyone. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, everybody does that, even if they say they don't. You're not seeing 90% of the work that got to where that person is. You're just seeing the 10% that they've decided to include in their, you know, I've made it post. I should probably start wrapping this up. Anyone else have any questions in the chat? Happy to talk about anything, so feel free. What's my favorite movie and why? I've got a couple, but I think my all-time favorite movie is Kill Bill. It's the only movie I never get tired of, and it's the only movie that I'm always excited to watch. I've got favorites for different reasons, though. Like, I love The Fall as much as I love Kill Bill, but for totally different reasons. But I can't watch The Fall at any time. I gotta be in a mood. Kill Bill's a movie I can watch no matter what. My father could die tomorrow, and after the funeral, I could watch Kill Bill and have a good time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to enjoy Kill Bill. It's just my favorite. The soundtrack, the visuals, the action, the way the story's laid out, every single thing about it, I just love. I like Kill Bill 1 more than Kill Bill 2. There's parts of Kill Bill 2 that are good, but overall, it's a much weaker movie. It feels like an afterthought. It feels like they had a bunch of B-roll footage from Kill Bill 1 and they kind of just made a movie out of it. It doesn't have those striking moments like suddenly the movie's done in anime. And, you know, there's this crazy Western music playing over a samurai fight on a roof and she's fighting 100 people. You know, like, it doesn't have those moments. It's a much smaller, tamer script. I do like it, but nowhere near as much as the first one. If Kill Bill 1 is a 10, then Kill Bill 2 is like a 5. But, yeah. But, like, I've got so many favorite movies for different reasons. It's kind of hard to say one's definitively my favorite. The Dark Crystal is one of them. You know, The Fall is one of them. The Life Aquatic is one of them. Yeah, exactly. There's movies you can love, but for it to be your favorite movie, I feel like the only criteria that matters is can you watch it and enjoy it any day of the week, no matter what happened. I feel like that's the most honest way to figure out your favorite movie. Everyone's cheering. Like I could watch The Neverending Story any day of the week, no matter what happened, and enjoy it. That's why it's one of my favorites. Not as favorite as Kill Bill, but it's very close. But yeah, I've got so many favorite movies, it's ridiculous. I'm going to see one of my favorite movies this weekend in a theater, which is going to be amazing. I'm going to go see Conan the Barbarian, the original one, in a movie theater on a screen. And I'm going to fucking love it. It's going to be amazing. Like the Indiana Jones movies, those are all some of my favorites. I can watch those any day, no matter what. Raiders of the Lost Ark is probably my, like, I don't know, number 3 favorite movie of all time. Watched the shit out of those when I was a kid. The original Conan the Barbarian with Arnold is a really great movie. I would recommend it to anybody. If you like any kind of fantasy anything, I would recommend it. It's got really good practical effects. It's got a good hero's journey story. It's not over the top. It's got a really good soundtrack. Yeah, it's just a good, it's just a good time. You can get over the fact that Arnold is Arnold. Because when that movie came out, Arnold wasn't like a huge guy. He was like, you know, famous, but he's not like today, where it's like, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gotta divorce yourself from the fact that it's Arnold on the screen. And I'm talking about Conan the Barbarian. The original, not Conan the Destroyer. That movie sucks. So watch out. It's the same difference as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Ninja Turtles 1 is an awesome movie. Ninja Turtles 2 has Vanilla Ice in it. My favorite music? Let's think here. If I go by the same criteria as movies and it's music I can listen to no matter what mood I'm in, then I guess orchestra soundtracks would be the only thing I can listen to no matter what. Gustav Holst's The Planets is probably my most listened to. I like Dvorak. Yeah, I listen to that stuff probably more than anything. And then you get into like orchestra soundtracks for things and like, I don't know, Shadow of the Colossus soundtrack, all that kind of stuff. Orchestras doing video game music I love that. So many, I listen to so much stuff though, like, I guess, I listen to more rap and hip hop and, DJ stuff when I'm painting than anything else because like it wakes me up. I listen to a lot of like DJ Shadow, Kid Koala, Cut Chemist. Yeah, I love that stuff too. I don't like I don't like country, especially pop country, but I love bluegrass, like old-fashioned bluegrass, where it's like actual like, you know, fiddles and stuff and banjos and like I can do that. I can't do like songs about my pickup truck and I fight with my wife and it's okay because I got my Budweiser. Like that's like I hate that more than anything. Uh, that's really it. I think I listen to every other kind of music except that specific kind of country. Now that I think about it, I think I listen to absolutely everything except that. Oh, JL. It's all opinion, you know? Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people just can't get into it. You know? There's thousands of people, millions of people that would swear that, you know, Bach or Mozart was the greatest composer of all time, but there's only one or two things by each of them that I could really listen to more than a couple times and not get bored. It's all opinion. Well, it's basically the same thing. One's just light waves and one's sound waves. So, you know, you're 100% right, grilled chicken. As my voice slowly dies. I got 10 more minutes in me, so if you want to ask anything, feel free. Let me give this guy some torques, I think. Keeping Skype is cheating, grilled chicken. You want to get rid of everything. You want to just be yourself in a room with a sketchbook. Which, if that sounds scary to you, or it sounds impossible, really take a step back and look at your life. Because it shouldn't be that hard to just be alone with yourself for a couple of days with a sketchbook. If that's scary, then you've got some thinking to do. The reason stuff like Skyping and chatting is cheating for the sketchbook experiment we talked about earlier is because then you run the risk of somebody saying, "So what have you been doing out there on your vacation away from the world?" And you say, "Oh, I've been drawing." "Oh, that's cool. What have you been drawing?" "Well, I've been drawing this suit of armor and blah 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 and blah blah blah." "Oh, is there a character in it?" "No, it's just a suit of armor." "Well, shouldn't you put a character in it?" "Oh, I don't know. I didn't really consider it." "Oh, haha." Like, it'll slowly start to, you run the risk of influence from other people and other things creeping in the more people you talk to. So yeah, just run an experiment and get rid of all that shit. Don't your eyes get worse if you draw 4 or 5 hours in a row, Dan? I'm not the best person to ask. I was born legally blind, and even after my corrective surgery and glasses, I still have color blindness. My eyes already started out fucking horrible, so I couldn't tell you if they're getting worse. They're already pretty bad. I think music's fine, yeah. Just no visual stimulus. You know what I mean? Don't look at other art. Don't talk to other artists. None of that. Unless the words in the song go, I love Dungeons and Dragons. You should draw dwarfs all day. So much armor on so many dwarves. That's how you make money. Draw some dwarves to make some cash. That's a way to sell stuff on the internet. Like, the song says that. Don't listen to it. But other than that, I think you're good to go. Just become a singer? No, that's my sister's job. I don't want to steal her thunder. She'd never forgive me. She'd probably forgive me. Trust me, family doesn't have to forgive you. There are members of my family I will never forgive for amazing things that I can't even believe are real. When I was 13, I had to go down south and stay with my uncle in Illinois. And he took me on a like a soul-saving pilgrimage journey conversion something. I don't know what the fuck to call it. He's Baptist minister, I guess is the word. But yeah, oh man. We went to a town called Thebes, and it was like 110 degrees that day in August when I was down there. And what he did was he bought a bunch of air conditioners, and he went to this low-income town where every single. So imagine a town called Thebes. It's 110 degrees August. Every single person in the town is black. Every single person. And then it's a low income area in Illinois. Everyone's black. And then a van full of white Baptist preacher people show up in their town uninvited. And they have a van full of air conditioners. And none of these people have air conditioners. Can't afford them. And the guy in charge, my uncle, says to them, "We have free air conditioners if you accept Jesus into your heart and let me baptize you as part of our congregation." And I have to sit there and be part of that group that goes into that town. 13-year-old me is just sitting in the van with my Pokemon game on my Game Boy, wishing I was dead, fearing for my life. Because if I were those people, I would hate my uncle for doing that. I would want to kill him. I would, that's just like, you can't afford food? Here's a truck full of food. But only if you give me what I want. It's like, who the fuck are you to do that? But anyway, I'm never gonna, yeah. Family doesn't have to forgive family. Trust me. No, my uncle's still alive. He's got he's got an illegal weapons cache under his house because he thinks that the rapture is going to happen. Or I guess not the he thinks the rapture is going to happen too, but he thinks the end of the world is going to happen and then the rapture is going to happen or something. So he's got a cache of weapons under his house that I saw when I was down there that he's like waiting for the end of the world, and in case like he needs to defend himself or something, he's got like all these assault rifles and like explosives and all this ridiculous shit in like this secret closet like under his living room. It's like really, yeah, they're all crazy. I've got nothing against having a gun or whatever, but I do have something against having a Batman style secret bunker under your house full of military grade weapons when you're the kind of person that will hold a hot, low income individual at ransom for an air conditioner unless they let you put God inside their body. Yes, I'm against the second one. So anyway, that's my uncle. One of my uncles. I've got 12. Got 12 uncles. I think, maybe more. I can't really keep track. Congratulations, Crack Skull. You've won an award for the greatest joke of the evening. What did the people do in my uncle came with air conditioners? Some of them locked their doors and went inside and didn't come out. Some of them said the words and let my uncle dip them in water so they could get an air conditioner and get out of the fucking heat. I mean, pretty much what you expected would happen. Some people basically told him to fuck off, and some people were like, well, it's an air conditioner. Oh, they were mad in general, yeah. They were mad, definitely. I mean, wouldn't you be? It was more anger from like a who do you think you are perspective. Like what's wrong with you? So I'm pretty much done with this paint over. There's some stuff I could push. I'm gonna keep the limbs stunted because he's a lion man, and I'm not entirely sure. Based on how you painted the abs, I'm not entirely sure if you want to go for full human anatomy or like a hybrid anatomy. So if you wanted to go for full human anatomy, yes, his arms are a little short. He's kind of stocky right now. That's fine. There's people that have limbs like that. He's not like the, idealized anatomy right now, though. He's definitely stocky. He's definitely shorter. Um, if I was going to keep this going, I'd probably put more work into the wrinkles and folds of the cape. I'd probably work some more design into the jewelry. Yeah, I mean, but basically, the big stuff I wanted to address with the paint over so you can take it to the next level has been addressed. Again, if you do this and you make the changes and you get it to a point where you want to take it to color, happy to critique it a second time. Happy to help you do that. But yeah, push it as far as you can with the stuff we've covered before you ask for anything else on it, though, if you do. And with your other work that I showed on the forum at the beginning, I'm happy to help you with a crit on that stuff, but for the stuff that's obviously painted from photo, I need to see the reference you're using to accurately correct the mistakes that are being made. So don't be afraid of sharing reference. Everybody uses reference, and if there's studies, everybody definitely uses reference for studies. Kind of have to. So don't be afraid to show that stuff on the forum. Happy to see it. Happy to help. Yeah. Yes, this is a crit. So I'm gonna turn the layers on and off real quick here to look at the before and after, and then I'm gonna go so I guess I'm gonna keep the main. I was originally gonna put it on a layer, but I kind of like it. Again, if you don't like it, you can just cut it off. It's pretty much placed in a way where you can remove it very, very easily if you want to. Yeah, so catch a little light down here on the leather, and that'll be the last thing I do. The leather straps. Cool. So, yeah. Let's duplicate the... Alright, shut that off. Merge visible. And this is the paint over. This we cropped out quite a bit. But yeah. This is the paint over. I'm going to probably, I gotta get off of here for time reasons because this upload is going to take forever on YouTube. I am going to do a light pass on this probably, a really quick light pass, just to carve out the shapes of the face and put some cast shadows on it real quick. I'm just going to use a multiply layer to drop some shadows in the forms of the face, and then overlay layer set to white to pull out the edges. Really simple stuff. I'm going to do that before I put it on the forum, so the JPEG is going to look a little different than what you're seeing on here. But I am at like the 2-hour, 15-minute mark, and that means it's going to take forever for this thing to upload, so I'm going to get off of here. But, yeah. Zoom in on the face real quick and get a last look, and then I'll get off of here. But, oh, I didn't see that part of this ear got cut off. Whoops. Let me make that edit real quick. But anyway, so, just the before and the after. And, yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Had a good time. And I'll be back tomorrow for another 2 or 3 hour crit of some other work that's on the forum. So again, just check the forum or the hip chat for artcamp, and I will be putting my times I'm going live on there. And, yeah, thanks for coming. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And good luck with whatever you're working on, whatever you got on the slate. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.